Okay, this was an interesting and fun episode, especially that second task. So, their first task was to rappel down the side of a dam. And the best part of that, because they didn't show that many, that they show Nick Young freaking out because apparently that's what he does before every task. Not just heights anymore. Now the second one, which I can't blame him, it's not claustrophobia, but he's a big guy. It's like, is he going to get stuck? But anyway, the theme of this episode was, they also talked to Ravi, but the theme of this episode was how adorable Sean and Andrew are. Now I'm just waiting for Cody to say something really fucking stupid to or about Sean and see how Andrew reacts to that. Because I get the feeling you could tell him what a piece of shit he is or whatever, and he would be like, yeah, whatever. Attack his wife? You might not, that might not work out too well for you. Why is it whenever it comes to any of these situations, especially when it comes to the women, it's what would happen if Cody did something really boneheaded? Because he is an asshole. But anyway. So, how did he end up with one wife, let alone four? But anyway. So, the guys did try to stir up some shit with Andrew and Sean, basically asking if he feels intimidated by Sean. And, because he mentions how she's better than him in pretty much everything. And his response was, oh no, we're a good team. Which is a great attitude. That no matter his self-doubt, no matter his seemingly lack of self-esteem, he still sees himself and Sean as equals. It's not like because he has a lack of self-esteem, he lashes out. No, he appreciates what Sean brings, and that's great. So, they have a great relationship. I mean, you saw when Andrew went down, Sean was holding her breath. I think she was, even though we didn't really see it, but I think she was 100% more nervous for him than she was when she did her task. Because let's face it, it's one thing to do something that's in your control. And doing the task was completely in her control. And let's face it, gymnastics is brutal. So the fact that she's, knocking out these tasks is awesome. And, I wouldn't have expected any less from her. But we've seen other gymnasts have difficulties. So yeah, she's very encouraging of Andrew. And Andrew, isn't intimidated by Sean's success. He appreciates what Sean brings, and he feels that he's an equal to her, not like she's better than him. Even though he says that she's better than him in most things, he isn't intimidated by that. He seems to understand that she does certain things well, he does other things well, and that's fine. So So that is a great attitude to have. So toxic men, incels, take note. You don't have to dominate women in order to be a man. He's very much a man. He's very supportive of Sean. She's supportive of him. They have an awesome relationship. So Ravi, however, can't keep his damn mouth shut. And the guys think he's cocky. But he even said in his because those interviews that they have with the celebrities, that all happens before the course. So they can only guess how they'll act. And he's like, yeah, they're going to hate me because I can be sarcastic when I'm nervous. Which I guess because we saw that in his pre-show interview, that they might have edited out that part when he went into therapy. I'm not even going to call it interrogation or tactical questions or whatever the heck they call it on the show. It's therapy. So I assume that's why that isn't brought up. He does talk about the loss of their child. And it sounded like they chose to have the child and just let her die afterwards, which, okay, I don't agree with that decision, but hey, that's the decision they went with, so whatever. And that's gotta be tough. And I'm sure that that he was super sarcastic and, telling jokes inappropriately, because he said that that's what he does when he's nervous. And let's face it, this was a horrible time for them. So, when he said, oh, yeah, I'm doing great in the challenges, and the guys are looking at each other and laughing, I'm like, I thought he was doing well. I mean, we didn't see him much because of montages. So, obviously, when they get fewer people, they'll be able to show them all doing each challenge because they'll have the time. But right now at the time it was 14. Johnny shocked me in this episode because then they get to the second challenge. And, Andrew was saying how he was actually excited to see this side of Sean because he never has. Sean even said it. He's never seen this side of her. And she's like, when I get back into it, I have no idea what's going to happen. Because it had been a long time since she competed. She coaches now. I don't know what Andrew does now, but Sean coaches, so she's still in that world. But obviously coaching is not doing gymnastics, so being an athlete. So the next challenge, but before I get to it, when they were driving up, Gia had the best line today where she goes, oh no, I don't want to drown again. I just thought it was hilarious because it's like, you're sitting there, you're talking, you didn't drown. But anyway, it was foreshadowing. So they get to their second task and they have to penetrate enemy lines. And unlike the previous seasons where you have to drive and pick up a hostage, pick up a wounded soldier, and drive them over enemy lines to safety. This time they have to go to a cell tower and bomb it. Well, grenade it. And so just blow it up. So, Johnny's group is the first to go. And I thought when I heard him say, I'm stuck, well, the tunnels get progressively smaller. He's not a small guy. I do not care, how much he weighs or how fit he is, even though he does have a pooch, but I don't care even if he didn't. He's still a big guy. So obviously it's going to be harder for him than it is for the smaller women. So he was going through. Gia also was having a panic attack at even going into the tunnel. Even before they started, she was freaking out. And I thought, okay, maybe she's going to withdraw too, because she seems to be full on panicking. Which, again, don't blame her, but, what were you expecting? They want you to be afraid. That is the whole point of this. That's the whole point of this episode, is fear, overcoming your fear. So Johnny, it is designed that there is going to be a dead end. So you have to go back. And Johnny uses that as a sign to stop. Instead of going back, I don't know if it was Gia or Chanel who were like, let's just, back up and, we'll figure it out. And Johnny just decided to quit. And he even said that there's always this little voice in his head that says, stop. So when Johnny says things like, other people are the reason why he didn't succeed in the NFL, that's bullshit. His own brain is what caused him to not succeed in the NFL, because his mind just went to crap. He has his mind just kept telling him he can't do stuff, so of course you're not going to do it. So he decides to quit. Unfortunately, that means that Chanel and Gia failed because one of their team members quit. And of course, Johnny is pissed off at himself, which, yeah, you should be pissed off, because even if it wasn't just about you, you screwed things up for your teammates. And that is a concept he does understand. So yeah, I didn't expect him to make it this far because his shoulder was hurting him already on day one. So I don't know if he went to the medic and we just didn't see it to get something for his shoulder, or it just worked itself out. I don't know. But it was the mental side that did him in, not the physical. So, yeah, I was rather disappointed. All the other teams passed. Sean broke down afterwards. Apparently, according to the staff, Andrew's team did the best of everybody. I really wanted to see Johnny do the Johnny Manziel stuff, which is throw the grenade. Because I'm sure he would have thrown that grenade much further than anybody else. Simply because, well, that was his fucking job. He is a quarterback. Of course you expect him to throw shit far. So, Nick, of course, was whining again. I mean, it's kind of cute, kind of funny, but also seriously annoying. It's like, you know, either do it or don't. Stop whining. So I'm surprised that, well, they already spoke with him once, but it's like, okay, what? Have you not learned anything? Why are we... I mean, it's possible that it's fear that causes him to do that, but it's still very, very annoying. So everybody goes through, but Andrew doesn't look happy. It's like, dude, you led your team to victory. Why do you look like you just lost your puppy? I mean, he even said in his pre-show interview that he wants the team to do well, that he wants to be around competition, not to be the best of a competition. Well, you did that. Why aren't you happy? And of course, staff clocked him. It's like, what the hell is going on with him? And so they spoke with him in therapy, and he basically was like, yeah, I felt like this ever since my rookie year in the NFL when I was a long snapper. Now, there were 2 Brits he was talking to, and I'm just thinking, okay, now, I'm sure they've spent plenty of time in the U.S., but do either of them know what a long snapper is? I mean, it's possible they're familiar with American football, but that doesn't mean that they are aware of every position. And the long snapper isn't exactly a well-known position. It does just that on punts and kickoff. So, yeah. It's, not exactly a well-known position. You're not going to know the name of your long snapper. So, maybe they looked him up beforehand, so they had an idea. Now, the thing that, he didn't bring up, which I think is a part of why he was questioning himself in his rookie year and how he wasn't very good and blah, blah, blah. I wonder, he did say he used to be a linebacker, and then they moved him to long snapper. I assume when he got drafted in the NFL, that they made him a long snapper, that they converted him. And I wonder if that was a part of it. He knew his position. He was a linebacker. He knew what he needed to do. He knew the ins and outs of that position. And suddenly he's a long snapper. So, yeah. But he didn't bring that up. So I don't know if they just cut that out or if that didn't enter anybody's mind. Because why should it enter Foxy's and Billy's minds when, again, I don't know how familiar they are with American football, and if they're didn't look that part up about him, that he's a converted linebacker and no understanding of a long snapper, of course there's no reason for them to ask about that. So if he doesn't bring it up, there's no reason for them to ask about it. So I don't know if that was brought up at all. But that he overthinks. That's what they decide, that he overthinks things. And it's got to be, because you do not make it into the NFL and have low self-esteem. That just, no, you just don't do that. Let's see what else about this episode. Again, it ends with Sean and Andrew, you know, snuggling, cuddling, whatever, heads together and encouraging each other, and it's just so sweet. And the fact that they put such a emphasis this season on their relationship tells me that they both go far. Now, whether they would go far separate from each other, Sean, I think, would be fine, but Andrew is the question mark. Who knows? One or both of them might have faltered by now if the other one wasn't there. Who knows? The fact that they don't show much from Eric Decker or his wife, Jesse James Decker, kind of tells me they're not going far. We've seen a little more from Randall, even though they don't. We haven't heard any. At least I don't think we heard any pre-show interview, or he hasn't had a lot of time in the spotlight outside of the tasks, and very little inside. So we'll just have to see what happens. I really hope he goes far. Again, Packer fan, so I'm a bit biased. Everybody agrees that today sucked. Everybody's like, yeah, we don't want to ever do that again. So, and I honestly thought at first that it was Gia that was crying and that Andrew was calming her down, saying, breathe, it'll be okay. But it was Sean. She broke down, which is fine. I mean, there's, that was a scary task, because you're in the dark, the tunnels are getting progressively smaller, and, Sean is tiny, but, you don't know what's happening in front of you. So, of course, I did appreciate that they finally split up the pairs. I assume they did the same thing with the Deckers, but they finally split up the pairs. It's not that husband and wife are together. So I did appreciate that. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. I think that's all I have for this episode. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.